Yannick was tired. His shift had just started, and already his boots were sinking in oily sludge. The maintenance deck of the old freighter dust runner was worse than usual. The hallway lights flickered overhead, and the smell of mold and rust filled the air. He pulled his tool cart behind him and reached for his job list on the screen. Storage Bay 12F, full cleanout. Watch for leaking containers, he sighed. That bay hadn't been opened in months. Some said it was sealed after a chemical leak. Others whispered that someone had died in there. Yannick didn't believe in ghost stories, but he also didn't like dark. Silent storage rooms filled with forgotten crates. He reached the thick metal door and typed in the override code. The door creaked open with a long, heavy groan. The lights inside barely worked. Only a few flickered, weakly, leaving most of the room in shadows. Dust floated through the air. Crates were stacked high, covered in grime, with faded labels and alien languages. Some had busted corners, others were wrapped in chains. Yannick wrinkled his nose and stepped inside. Great. Smells like something died, he muttered. He started working, moved boxes, sprayed foam cleaner on the walls, and scraped rust from pipes. His gloves stuck to everything. Time passed slowly. The silence was heavy. No machines humming, no voices on the radio. Just the sound of his boots and the scrape of tools. Then something moved. He froze, a crate near the far wall. Shifted just an inch, but enough to be seen. He narrowed his eyes. Maybe it was on wheels. Maybe the floor wasn't level. He walked toward it, slowly, carefully. The crate was sealed tight, had no wheels. A warning symbol was burned onto its front, old, faded, written in a language he couldn't read. Yannick reached out and tapped it with his wrench. Silence. Then the crate moved again. This time, clearly. It jolted slightly, as if something inside had nudged the wall. His heart jumped. No way. He whispered. He checked the screen on the side of the crate. It was blank, no temperature, no power, no signal. The crate was dead tech. But whatever. Was inside, wasn't? Yannick knelt and checked the edges. The lock was old, broken. With a hard pull, he pried it open. The lid hissed as it came loose, releasing a thick cloud of musty air. He coughed and waved the mist away. Then he looked inside. Curled. Up in the center of the crate was a girl. Her skin was blue, covered in dried black slime. Her hair, long and tangled, was stuck to her face and shoulders. Thin, glowing lines traced her arms and chest, barely visible under the filth. She looked alien, not from any species. He recognized she wasn't dead. Her chest rose and fell, slow and shaky. Yannick blinked. What the hell? Then her eyes opened, soft silver, glowing dimly in the darkness. She looked up at him. Her lips moved, but no sound came. He leaned closer. Are you okay? A breath, weak and trembling, left her throat. Then she whispered, barely louder than air. Scrub me, human. Spray me with water and I'll bond with you. Yannick stared. Did he hear that right? Her eyes didn't blink. She just stared at him, unblinking, waiting. Scrub you? He repeated. She gave a slow nod. He looked around. The room confused. This wasn't a joke. She was serious and in bad shape. He could see the grime crusted on her skin. Her breathing was weak. She looked half-starved. He grabbed a nearby canister of purified water and a clean cloth from his cart. Slowly, carefully, he sprayed a small patch on her shoulder and wiped the filth away, under the grime. Her skin glowed faintly, a shimmer like stars beneath the surface, as more grime came off. More light appeared. She let out a slow breath, and her fingers moved slightly, gripping the crate edge. Janek worked gently, cleaning her arms, shoulders, neck. The more he cleaned, the more he realized how beautiful she was under the dirt. But something felt different. He wasn't just cleaning her. The air around her had changed, warmer, thicker, almost electric. Her eyes never left his. He sprayed more water on her back. A strange symbol shimmered on her skin, a rune or marking, glowing gently, like it had just awakened. What are you? Yannick asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she placed one weak hand on his wrist. "You started the bond," she said, voice still shaking. "Now only you can finish it, or I die." Yannick stared at her, heart racing. This wasn't a maintenance job anymore. It was something much bigger, and someone, or something, wanted her to stay forgotten. Yannick's hand trembled slightly as he poured more water over the girl's back. The grime melted away slowly, like layers of old armor peeling off. Her skin beneath was smooth, pale blue, and glowing gently. She stayed quiet now, breathing slow. Her silver eyes locked on him as if watching for any mistake. The room felt different. The cold storage bay no longer felt empty. The air had a pulse to it, a weight, like something sacred was unfolding. Yannick didn't understand it, but he could feel it. With every wipe of the cloth, something ancient and unspoken moved between them. She didn't cry, she didn't flinch. But when he touched the curve of her shoulder with the wet cloth, her eyelids fluttered. Not in pain, but as if it meant something more. He leaned back and asked, "Is this hurting you?" She slowly shook her head, voice still soft but steadier than before. "No, but it's dangerous." "For you? For me?" Yannick raised an eyebrow, wiping her forearm next. She nodded, eyes closing briefly. "In my culture, this is a sacred act. Bonding doesn't happen through words or contracts. It begins with care, with water, with hands." Yannick paused. "You mean like a ritual?" She opened her eyes again. "Yes. And once started, it cannot be undone, not unless the bonded one dies." He blinked at her. That wasn't the kind of thing a human janitor expected to hear during a cleaning shift. She continued, her voice growing clearer as more grime left her skin. "Zalari don't choose mates with logic or force. We bond when someone chooses to wash away our decay. Pain, our shame." She looked at him. "You chose that without knowing it. That is rare and dangerous." Yannick rubbed his forehead. He looked at the water canister, now half empty. "It's what happens now, are you like mine?" Her face turned slightly. "Not shy, not ashamed, but hesitant. Not yours, but linked. My mind begins to sync with yours. Our thoughts. To echo. Our pain, our fear, even our memories." He sat back on his heels, unsure what to say. She looked down at her chest, still covered in patches of black resin. "It must be completed. If not, the energy will destroy my mind, and it may damage yours too." That caught his attention. He stood up, took a breath, and grabbed a second cloth. He didn't ask more questions as he moved the cloth down her back. New symbols began to glow, intricate runes that shimmered beneath her skin, ancient and alive. The more he cleaned, the more they revealed themselves, a language he didn't understand, but somehow felt meaningful. And then, something inside him shifted. His heartbeat slowed. The light in the room seemed sharper. He could feel her breath, even before it left her lips. Her pain flickered through his mind, images of a cell. Metal chains, cruel alien faces, auction blocks, screaming voices. He dropped the cloth. She gasped, sitting upright, eyes wide. "You saw it?" she whispered.
"Ow."
"You're starting to feel." "Me." Yannick took a step back, shaken. "I saw your past," he said, voice low. "Your fear they tried to sell you." She nodded slowly. "The cartel marked me. I escaped by hiding inside a shipping crate on a dying freighter. That was my prison, but also my escape pod." Janek looked around the bay. Dirt, the shadows, the silence. "They really left you in here. To rot." She placed a hand on the floor and tried to sit upright. Her body trembled, but her voice held more strength now. "They believed no one would clean a filthy crate. They thought I would fade without ever being touched." He looked at her. Suddenly he wasn't just a cleaner anymore. Was part of something strange, ancient, dangerous, but also meaningful. A soft beep broke the moment. Yannick's wrist scanner lit up. A system alert had triggered. Unauthorized signal detected Bay 12F, Long-range ping active. His eyes widened. That crate, it sent a signal when I opened it. Her face paled. Then they know. They're coming. Who's coming? Ones who want to reclaim me. Or kill me if they can't. He grabbed his tool pack and checked his sidearm. A basic shock pistol. I have to get you out of here. She shook her head. If I move before the cleansing is finished, the bond will fracture. My mind will collapse. And yours may follow. Yannick gritted his teeth. We don't have time. She reached up, her hand resting on his chest now. Then finish it fast, human. I am trusting you with everything I am. Alarms didn't ring. No bright red warning lights flashed. But on Yannick's wrist panel, a quiet, pulsing glow blinked in the corner. Small, steady, and deadly. Long-range signal sent, tracing in progress. His chest tightened. He turned. To the girl. She was still sitting inside the crate, glowing symbols on her skin shining brighter now, her chest rising and falling in slow breaths. But her eyes were no longer soft. They were afraid. You said someone's coming, he said. She nodded. The beacon inside the crate was meant to alert my captors, in case I was ever found alive. Alive and unbonded, you mean, he muttered. Gripping his tool belt, she looked away, voice quiet. Yes, because without a full bond, I am nothing but property. Yannick's heart pounded faster. He pulled up a map on his wrist screen. Local cum relays, nearby traffic. One unregistered ship had just entered the outer field of the freighter. No identification, no contact, and moving too slow for trade. It was circling like a hawk. They're already here, he said. She stood, shaky but tall, stepping out of the crate with bare feet. Her form was lean, glowing, almost regal now that most of the grime was gone. But there was something fragile in her stance. Her voice dropped low. They will not ask questions. They will board. If they see me not fully bonded, they'll take me and kill you. Yannick clenched his fists. Why kill me? Because you touched me. Because you began what they were never allowed to start. The Zalari bond is irreversible. Only one can claim it, and you, human, did it first. He stared at her for a long second. Then he asked, So what's the price on your head? Her answer came without pause. 17 million credits. Dead Yannick blinked hard. 17 million was more than the Dust Runner made in 10 years. It was more than his entire crew's life earnings. It was enough to build a planet. He stepped back and let out a breath. You really weren't kidding about being dangerous. She tilted her head, the silver glow in her eyes softening again. I didn't ask for you to find me. But now that you have, I will not survive without you. Yannick looked at the cleaning cloth, still damp in his hand. He hadn't even finished wiping the resin from her stomach. The final symbol, whatever completed the ritual, remained hidden, but time was out. His cum unit buzzed again. Unauthorized. Docking clamp engaged. Port Bay 7. Infiltration expected in 5 minutes. They weren't waiting for permission. He grabbed her hand. We're finishing this later. For now, I'm getting you off this level. She hesitated. If I move before the bond is sealed, I may. He cut her off. You'll survive. If we don't move, neither of us will. Let her out of the storage bay and down the dark corridor. The lights flickered overhead, casting moving shadows across the rusted metal walls. He knew this ship like his own hand. Every duct, every vent, every blind corner. He pulled her into a hidden maintenance shaft that connected directly to the old AI core chamber. No one went there anymore. The core was dead. As the hatch closed behind them, the girl slid down against the wall, her breath shaky. The energy in her skin dimmed again. She whispered, moving, is breaking the sync. I feel it slipping. Yannick knelt next to her, wiping the sweat from her forehead. We just need to hide until they leave. They won't leave, she said. They'll track the bond through my skin. If they get close enough, they'll sense it. Yannick stared at her glowing body. It was beautiful, but it was also a target. Then a thought struck him. If the bond is what protects you, if I finish it? Right now? Her breath hitched. If you do, I will be yours forever. Yannick looked her in the eye. No more hiding. She slowly nodded. Her hands guided his gently to the last patch of grime across her stomach, where a final circular rune hid beneath a thick black crust. "Clean it," she whispered. He did. As the cloth wiped away the last of it, the symbol lit up, and so did her entire body. A golden thread of light raced from the rune to her chest, then up her neck, into her eyes. She gasped, then Yannick felt it. A shock of warmth burst into his mind, memories not his own, images of starlit gardens, cities, carved into crystal, voices speaking languages he didn't know but understood. He felt her heartbeat echo in his chest. Her pain, her joy, her trust. Then silence. She collapsed into his arms, breathing steady, glowing softly. The bond was complete. But before Yannick could catch his breath, a voice rang out from the corridor. Unauthorized. Life form detected. Surrender or die. The bounty hunters had entered the ship. Yannick pressed his back against the cold wall of the AI core room, his heart racing like a hammer in his chest. The alien girl, now fully bonded to him, lay curled on the floor beside him. Her skin softly glowing, her breath calm. Outside the sealed hatch, heavy footsteps echoed across the metal walkway. Boots, more than one pair. The bounty hunters had boarded, and they were closing in. He gripped the shock pistol in his hand. It wasn't much a low charge, short range but better than nothing. He glanced at the girl again. She wasn't glowing out of fear now. She was glowing because of him, because they were connected. Yannick took a deep breath. "You said they can track your bond," he whispered. "Only if they get close enough," she replied, her voice soft and steady. "Then I have to make sure they don't get close." She reached for his hand and held it. Her skin was warm. "If you die, I die too. That's the risk of bonding." Yannick stared at her for a second. There was no time for questions. The footsteps were getting louder, heading toward the maintenance shaft. "I'll be back," he said. Before she could argue, he slid open the lower vent, climbed into the tight space, and pulled the grate shut. On deck 7, 2 bounty hunters moved like shadows, silent, armored, and ruthless. They were not humans. One was a tall reptilian with black scales and breathing tubes wrapped around his neck. The other was a smaller insectoid creature with glowing red eyes and claws that clicked with every step. "They wiped the crate trail," the reptilian growled. "But I still smell her," the smaller one hissed. "She's been cleaned." "The bond is fresh," the first one said.
What?
"That means the human must be close." They scanned each corridor with thermal scopes. The ship's old systems gave off enough heat to blur their vision, but they had other ways. The insectoid placed a hand on the wall and closed its eyes. "She's pulsing. I feel the sync. Her mind is inside this ship." Yannick crawled silently through the narrow maintenance tunnel, sweat dripping from his forehead. He had an idea. If they were tracking the girl's energy, maybe he could draw them away. He pulled out a small diagnostic chip from his belt, one of the tools used to access ship systems. He pressed his thumb to it and whispered, "Zone C, mimic life signature." The chip blinked green dot somewhere near the mess hall. A false heat and energy signal began to rise, exactly like hers. The bounty hunters paused. "She's moving." "Toward the galley," the reptilian said. "Split up," the insectoid replied. They turned and rushed down different halls. Back in the AI core chamber, the girl slowly stood. The glow on her body had dimmed slightly, but it now pulsed in rhythm with something stronger. It was someone. She could feel Yannick's heartbeat in her chest. She could see his thoughts flicker in her mind. The bond was new, unstable, but alive. Then, something shifted. She opened her hand and light formed across her palm. A soft thread of gold hovered, floating in the air. It was the first sign of awakening. The power her people once controlled. The bond had unlocked it. But then, her skin rippled. She looked down and saw her own light flickering, uneven. Her body was reacting to fear, not her own Yannick's. He was in danger. Yannick reached a control panel near the upper vent. He pulled it open and found a small supply of emergency coolant cells. "Time for a little noise," he muttered. He rigged 2 of Yannick. Them to spark. Then he sprinted back through the tunnel. As he dropped down into the corridor near the galley, the coolant cell popped white smoke and hissing. Steam shot into the air. The reptilian hunter rounded the corner and fired blindly. Yannick ducked behind. A broken panel and aimed his shock pistol. He fired. A bolt of electricity struck the hunter in the chest. It didn't kill him, but it slowed him down. Yannick ran. The hallway lights flickered. His feet pounded on metal. He knew this ship better than they did. If he could just lead them to the lower cargo shaft, he could trap them. But suddenly a flash of red appeared before him. The insectoid. Waiting, it swung its clock. At his arm ripped the pistol away. Yannick slammed into the wall. His vision blurred. The creature hissed. "Where is she?" Yannick wiped blood from his lip. "She's not yours." The creature raised its claw again, but it stopped. A golden light shone behind it. The alien girl stepped out of the shadows, her feet bare, her body glowing like a living star. Her voice rang clear. "You touched my bond. You will regret it." She raised her hand. The golden thread in her palm exploded outward like lightning. The insectoid screamed as it was hurled backward. Yannick gasped. "You're glowing again. Smile gently because I found you again. You didn't hide me. You claimed me." He held out his hand. She took it. The bond pulsed. And far in the stars, another ship answered the same pulse. The dust runner groaned as its outer shell adjusted to the vacuum shift. Somewhere deep inside the ship's spine, a maintenance hatch clicked open just enough for a claw to slip through. The intruder didn't make a sound. It didn't walk. It slithed. It had no armor, no weapon in its hand, only sharp limbs and a mission. Recover the bonded Zalari. Live if possible, terminated if not. Yannick and the girl moved through the dark service corridor behind the engine bay. It's the emergency. Lights bathed everything in red. The glow from her body had faded again, not because the bond was failing, but because she was holding it in. She said the light would draw more enemies. So now she walked beside him, quiet, barefoot, and dangerous. "We have to seal the deck," Yannick said, checking his wrist scanner. "The two you stunned weren't alone." She nodded. "I can feel something. Not like before. This one is colder, quieter, more cruel." Yannick stopped walking. "You feel it?" "Right. In my head," she said, touching her temple. "It's not thinking, it's hunting." He scanned the hallway. All clear. He moved to the panel near the vent access grid, tapped a few commands, and activated a full lockdown on Deck 3. The vents, the lifts, the blast doors all sealed. Except one. A red indicator flashed on his wrist. Vent 23B. Unsealed. Yannick cursed under his breath. "That one leads to the old med bay," said. Her eyes widened. "That's where I was first taken when they caught me. It's where they marked me. And it's trying to take you back to the beginning," Yannick muttered. "We're trying to make sure you never leave it." In the vent, the intruder's joints clicked as it pulled its body forward. Its senses were precise. Heat vision, chemical trace, heartbeat resonance. It didn't just hunt. It listened to its prey's soul. The girl's pulse had changed since the bond. Her mind was connected to the human now, and that meant the intruder had two targets. It slid out from the duct silently and stepped into the med bay. Yannick knew the layout better than anyone. He pulled the girl into the side tunnel, down a narrow ladder shaft that hadn't been used in years. The walls were tight, the bolts rusted. Hesitated before climbing in. "You trust this way?" she asked. He looked back at her. "I built this route when I was 16, hiding from officers who blamed me for a reactor leak." She smiled softly. "Then yes, I trust it." They moved quickly. Below the shaft, the path curved into a small control room abandoned, full of dust, with broken screens and crates. Yannick tapped the old console and forced a sensor ping to bounce off vent 23B. The screen blinked. Lifeform detected. Movement confirmed. But then the signal vanished. He narrowed his eyes. "That's not possible. It's still there. It's just hiding from tech." The girl stepped closer to the screen. It's using shadow field organs. My people were once hunted by its kind. Yannick looked at her, serious. Then how do we kill it? She lowered her voice. We don't. We trick it. In the medbay, the intruder slithered between the shattered glass tables and broken bioscanners. Its long body was nearly invisible in low light, coated in biocloth that absorbed reflections. It reached a dented chamber in the corner, the very table the girl had once been strapped to. It paused, then it hissed. There were 2 heartbeats nearby, one above, one to the side. The girl was near, and the human was behind it. Yannick dropped from the ceiling panel like a hammer. The shock rod in his hand cracked against the back of the intruder's neck, sending sparks through its spine. It screamed not in pain, but in rage. He didn't stop. He slammed the rod again. And again, the creature flung him across the room. He hit the wall hard, but managed to roll as he fell. Blood ran from his mouth. The intruder turned to finish him, but that was the moment she appeared barefoot, silent, with a silver line glowing down the center of her forehead. Her voice was not loud, but it stopped the creature in its tracks. He is bonded. You are not allowed to touch him. The intruder hesitated. It wasn't fear. It was confusion. She stepped closer, raising her palm. You can't smell me now, can you? She said. The intruder snarled. The bond masks my trail, she continued. The more complete it becomes, the more you lose your target. She placed her glowing hand against the wall. A pulse of golden light spread outward. It hit the intruder like a hammer. The creature screeched, twisted violently, then shattered into black ash against the floor. Yannick stared. Breathing hard, she dropped beside him, held his face, pressed her glowing forehead to his. Their bond burned hotter than before. But in the middle of that fire was calm. You didn't run, she whispered. You never ran. He smiled weakly. Someone had to protect the one glowing like a lantern. The intruder's ashes were still warm. He clung to the floor like dark snow, glowing faint red before fading into dust. The air was thick with static. Yannick could feel the taste of metal on his tongue, and his hands still shook from the fight. He looked up slowly. She was standing over him barefoot, glowing, unblinking. But this wasn't the same girl he pulled from the crate. Her body was stronger now, her eyes brighter, and her voice to calm like a storm waiting to fall. Yannick swallowed hard. What are you now? She stepped closer. Her fingers touched his chest, right over his heart. I am yours, she said softly. But not only yours. I am what I was meant to be before they caged me. The light pulsed under her skin, not just on her arms or face, but down her neck, her collarbones, her spine. Symbols rose like fire beneath water, ancient marks of the Zellery bloodline. Only seen once the bond was sealed, Yannick watched, frozen, as a new glow circled her chest. Above her heart. The final mark, pulsed once, then dimmed like a locked gate. A gate that had now opened. She knelt down, forehead to forehead, hands pressed against his. When my people bond, she whispered, we do not just share minds, we unlock power. Power that once defended planets. Power that was forbidden after the wars. Yannick's voice trembled. And now I have that? She nodded. You have me. For a moment, everything was still. Then the lights across the ship blinked out. Darkness swallowed the medbay. Only her body glowed. Ow! Now soft gold against the shadows. She turned her head slightly. They're jamming us, she said. Someone else just arrived. Yannick sat up. Another bounty ship? She stood slowly, her glow rising with her breath. No, that was a command pulse. Not from a hunter, from a ruler. Yannick's eyes narrowed. You're saying? Someone. Higher, she nodded. The emissary. One of the 7 that sit beneath the cartel lords. If they're here, they're not here to capture. They're here to erase. He climbed to his feet, chest still sore from the hit. Erase what, you mean? The bond. Everything this ship touched. A sharp hum rang through the air. Far above, the hull trembled. The dust runner's auto defenses lit up, but they were outdated, weak. Yannick didn't need a scan to know the freighter wouldn't last long against whoever just arrived. We have to run. She turned to him, shaking her head. We don't run anymore. Then she raised her hand toward the center wall of the medbay. The panels rippled. Yannick stepped back in shock. A shape pushed through like the wall itself was folding. A control column rose from the floor, not made of metal, not from the ship. It was part of her, a weapon sealed inside her genetic bond. What is that? She looked at him, voice steady. It's the last soul core of the Zellari. It activates only once. Only when bonded with a living will. I couldn't open it alone, but now, with you, I can. He stepped toward it. The surface shimmered beneath his palm. The moment he touched it, a wave of fire tore through his thoughts images, places, languages, histories that weren't his. He saw the Zellari throne fall. He saw millions of them turned to slaves. He saw her. Before the crate, proud, powerful, loved, he opened his eyes. I saw you, who you were. She stepped close. Then now you know why I chose death. Over. Being touched by anyone else. Yannick's throat was tight. You think I can use this? You already did, she said, placing his hand back on the column. When you cleaned me, you awakened the weapon. When you protected me, you charged. When you claimed me, you became the key. Outside, the ship shook violently. Red light poured through the cracks of the ceiling. We're almost out of time. Yannick gripped the column tighter. What happens if I fire this thing? She stared. Straight into his eyes. Then they'll never forget your name again. On the bridge of the emissary dreadnought, the command officer stared at the ancient signal rising from the surface of the human freighter. It's not possible, he muttered. Another officer stepped beside him. That's a Zellari soul core. It's responding to a human. The commander's hands trembled. Evacuate all forward decks, he snapped. But sir, they're only bonded. He completed the bond. That's not a girl anymore. That's a living weapon tied to a human. Will, he turned to the stars. And the last time a human and Zellari bonded, we lost a moon. Back in the medbay, Yannick looked at her. She nodded once. He pulled the trigger. A column of golden light tore through the top of the ship straight into the dreadnought. Above, the stars lit up. The enemy vessel didn't explode it. Vanished without fire, without sound, turned into ash and memory in a blink. Yannick fell to his knees. Heart pounding, she caught him, arms wrapped tight, her lips near his ear. Now, they know what we are. The stars were silent. Not even the dust runner's rusted engines made a sound now. The dreadnought above had disappeared, burned away by light no human weapon could create. The only thing left in its place was a ripple across space, like the sky itself had gasped. Yannick knelt on the floor of the medbay, his hands shaking. Not from fear, from something else. Something deeper. She stood beside him, glowing, breathing, alive. The final bond had changed them both, but in different ways. Her voice broke the stillness. The galaxy felt that. Yannick looked up at her. You think they'll let us walk away now? She didn't smile. No, not after what they just saw. But let them come. This time we won't hide. He stood slowly. His skin still felt warm from the soul core blast, like something inside him had awakened. It wasn't just her power. It was theirs now. Yannick looked around the ship. What do we do now? She stepped closer, lifted his hand, and placed it over her heart. You saved me. Now we save the others. He blinked. Others, she nodded. Hundreds, thousands, maybe more. Zellari, orphans of war, lost bonds waiting to be found. All of them scattered across systems like pieces of dust. Exhaled, and they'll be hunted like you were. Unless we stop it, she said. Unless we build something new. A place where no one has to hide in a crate to survive. Hours passed. The dust runner drifted into deep space, silent and unseen. Yannick rerouted its broken nav systems, linked it to the pulse memory of the soul core, and let her guide him. They traveled through rift channels and quiet zones places. The cartel didn't scan. She sat beside him, still glowing softly, but now in control. The girl he found was gone. This was a Zellery queen, reborn not through bloodline, but through choice. "You still okay?" Yannick asked as the stars stretched across the screen. She turned to him. "You're worried I'll change more than I already have." He looked away. "You've become something powerful. Just don't want to lose what we had before." She leaned in, her hand brushing his jaw. "You haven't lost me. You helped me remember myself." "Yeah, but you're not standing beside a queen, Yannick." He looked at her. "You're not? You're standing beside your bonded." Her forehead rested against his. "And I will never leave." But peace was never built in silence. 3 days later, the first signal arrived. A coded distress call scrambled. But unmistakable. A freighter caught in ambush. No defense. No weapons. A single survivor on board. Yannick read the coordinates sector. Died. 5 to 9. Same sector where she had once been hunted. She stepped up beside him. "It's a trap," he said. She replied. "Yes, but this time, they're not hunting prey. This time, they're hunting something that bites back." Yannick stood. He checked his tools, checked his pulse, checked her eyes. They were clear, steady, ready. He nodded. "Let's show them what happens when they touch something that finally has someone to fight for it." He jumped in silently. The trap was exactly as expected for small cartel ships, cloaked, already circling the broken freighter. No survivors. Just bait. But what they didn't expect. Was the dust runner glowing like a second star? The soul core lit up. Her voice filled the cockpit. "Activate light field mode. Let them see what hunted light looks like when it learns to bite." Yannick grinned. He hit the trigger in seconds. Light coiled from the freighter like golden flame. The first cartel ship didn't even get a warning. It vanished into particles. The second tried to escape. It burned mid-turn. The third opened fire. Yannick didn't blink. The bond answered. The pulse wave slammed through their hull. No explosion. Just stillness. The fourth ship tried to surrender. She didn't destroy it. She opened coms. "Go back to your masters. Tell them the bonded live. Tell them the bonded live. Tell them we remember." The word spread like fire. Some called it a myth. Others whispered the name of a human who bonded with a queen. Some feared it. Some wanted to kill it, but across dark sectors and ruined colonies, lost ones began to lift their heads again. They weren't alone anymore, on the edge of the known systems. Yannick stood beside her on a landing bay of a station they had just helped defend. Stars shone above them. He looked at her, brushing dust from his shoulder. "Still want to spray you with water sometimes?" He joked. She smirked. "You're always welcome to try. But next time, I might scrub you back." They laughed, but behind that laugh was something stronger, something unbreakable. Not because they were powerful, but because someone once dared to open a crate and chose to clean what no one else would touch.